now we can get into some more specifics. I have the mix of all the tracks separate. I'm not playing stems anymore. This is the actual tracks that Alan recorded and sent to me, and then
Mixed,
and then sent to me.
Because there wasn't a lot of recording going on this, to be quite honest with you.
Right. Good point. Because of pandemic, there's no big orchestra in this movie.
That was a decision Hans made. Instead of trying to fake up an orchestra, he said, we're going to do it with other things. Like the strings were played with what's called an EBow, which is a magnetic thing that excites a string on a guitar and a slide. And so all of the string parts you hear is actually this guy, Guthrie Govain, playing slide guitar with an EBow.
So I'll just bump through a few of these, solo them, and so you can see.
Let me just say something in advance of that. Is that one of the interesting things about this score is because we had all this time and it was sort of a work in progress. As this, we were what we thought finished with a piece of music, and then all of a sudden an idea would come up. What if we had 16 bass players play all the low notes? So all of a sudden I would get 75 more tracks and have to mix that down to a stem, and then it'd be like, well, let's do the Guthrie thing and I get another 110 tracks and stuff like that. So this literally was a morphing, malleable, hot mercury mess of lava that sort of turned into a score at some point.
That is well put, because that's exactly what happened. We did a first pass of the movie. We went through the whole thing, and it was kind of not a temp mix, but we kind of went through it a little fast so that we could see where we were at. And I actually did play for an audience at one point. And Denis came back. He goes, I have more ideas. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then Hans has more ideas. And he says, no, I want to add, 35 bass players and all this crazy stuff. And I was so overwhelmed because we had gone through a million things and all this automation. And all of a sudden they're adding all this stuff. I'm like, okay, hold on. We can't just throw this in. It'll be a disservice to the film. We need to step back a minute, maybe go back to pre-dubbing and kind of.
But I did the best I could to give you something you can
confirm. Oh, absolutely. But it's still.
One little anecdote to add to that was at one point when they were in their very final, Hans came up with this whole new motif and played it for Denis. And Denis like, it's fantastic, but we're done. He goes, I know, but Dune 2.
Yeah, Hans is a little...
Hans is a grenade under the bus kind of guy.
Yeah, and he's way into this movie, which kind of exacerbates that. But it's all good. He came up with great stuff. The additions were cool. We just needed time to really stop and okay. And that's what these boudoir sessions of coming to my home studio ended up doing. It sparked that.
And let's explain that, because the additions were extensions on the low end and extensions on the top end. It wasn't just plug them and play. Even if I mix it, all of a sudden your music, your spectral range of music goes from, here to here based on the additional overdub. So it's not the kind of thing that you just stick in there.
Yeah, because like you're saying, it's a broadened perspective of tone and also level of material. It's much more dense now. It's going against everything else in there. You have to really make it blend nicely, which Alan did. But now you got to put all of that material with all the sound effects and dialogue and everything else. It's overwhelming. You have to stop, take a pause. Okay, let's deal with this properly. So came to my house, went through all this, and that's where we really found the voice of this film, I think, was in this studio with Denis and Joe and Clint and Ryan. And we all focused in on mainly the music, but we did do a quick temp mix in here with the other elements. But those were basic stems, just playing back what we already had. So not a lot of work with those. Those were kind of kept where they're at, and we were concentrating on the score. So adding in all these bass tracks, the higher end material, all these other things, and saying, how can we make these blend, and how do we get the most out of the music as well? And it really jumped up a big notch there. And Denis started to smile, and he goes, and this is the key phrase. If he says this, you do not touch it. He says, I deeply love that. And that's the best thing ever. It's just, that's what you want to hear.
The interesting thing was that part of the process was not written into the post-production. So those 2 weeks, that was really me. I mean, I'm not taking any credit at all, but Hans called. He's just like, all these things are coming in. What do we do? I feel like we need to spend more time to focus. So I called Ron on the phone, and we got a video call going, and brought up the idea of doing a music pre-dub of all of this stuff with all the new elements. And Hans, once you get the power of having Hans calling the producers and stuff, saying we need to take these 2 weeks and do this and find the money and just do that, it happened. But that was not written into the project at all.
So now we can play some of the tracks and individually see what we got in here.
So these were the things that were considered the orchestra, or one of the things that were considered the orchestra, none of which is orchestral.
So what I did with this track, let me go back up a little bit. When I get a cue, I don't touch anything. I sit and I listen. If you start getting in there and mess it up, yeah, that's what you're doing. You're messing it up. You're not seeing the picture of what composer's idea was, what the director's idea was, what Alan did. You just start messing with it, and that's not cool. You need to stop, sit back, listen to the cue, and start to understand it. And while I'm doing that, I'm writing the master fader to get it in some sort of pocket. And it won't be the final, mix of it, but it's putting it in the level, because obviously you turn something down, EQ is going to change, the perception of certain elements change, and I want to know where it's going to sit. So I listen to the dialogue and effects, and I ride the level of the master first, and I kind of get a feel for it, and you start to get to know it, get to understand it. Then I go through and start listening to elements like, what did they do here? What's that? Oh, I really heard this one thing. I want to find out where that is, because maybe I can really make a little more of that, or it's a really cool element. Or, oh man, this one thing, this lands right on top of this dialogue line. Maybe if I just duck that, I can keep the other stuff up. So all of these things are going through my head while I'm doing that first pass and understanding that, because it allows me to do multiple things at once, which speeds up my process. And it allows me to get more out of what I'm doing in this very short amount of time, because I can't sit there mixing one cue for an hour. I'll be shot. Everybody's like, move on. What are you doing? So we've got a lot of material to get through. I'm not the only one. There's Doug, and we got sound effects, we got dialogue. There's other things to deal with. So you got to really not cut corners, but be very efficient about what you're doing and how many passes you get. So after I do that ride and I kind of feel a sense of where it's at, I get the sense of the cue, how it fits in the movie, and then I quickly go through and solo things and see what's in there food group wise. And while I'm doing that, I'm assigning things to different Atmos. I'll have to explain this. I use different sends, aux sends, that go to what we call boxes, or a reassign, or a submix, whatever terminology you want to use. Let's just say box. Okay, so I've got 3 boxes, and there are 3 different mixes of spreading things out in a different way. So I just mute sends. I have one send that's to the bed. So that's the bed tracks of the 7.1 bed that we're using. And then I have 3 more that I use in different segments of spreading it out in a different way. It's a quick way of allowing you to put things in Atmos and move it into the space without having to pan every single element. I mean, that's great if you got tons of time. No one has that time, really. So I've found a way to make this more efficient, but still get what I want out of it. Of course, I have it set up to each box. I can repan within it. I can't just that's it. That's all we get. There's 3 sections and that's all you get. No, you can pan within it. You can adjust what goes into it, or on the backside, repanning where that goes on certain elements. I also have objects that are separate. If I wanted, I can, copy this sound up to another track and literally take 2 channels of it and move it around and do something cool in an object track separate from the boxes. So it allows me to be very efficient, to be, get whatever I want to do. It's very flexible, but it's very quick. So what I do is I'll start soloing tracks, and the guys laugh at me on the stage because I'll be going, and I'm like bumping through these pretty quickly. I'm like, oh, that's strings, cool. That's percussion, great. And I just go through and listen to them. As I'm doing that, I'm assigning Atmos boxes, and I know where it's going to pan within that. And I have an idea of like, okay, I think this will work. Am I right all the time? Hell no. But it's a good starting point, and it allows me to spread it quickly, give you a sense of Atmos and spreading this out, because these are 7/1 stems and we're mixing in Atmos. And now I can adjust after I hear my original choice. I'm like, okay, let's sit back and play it. And I play the thing with my original ride. Maybe I'm adjusting that as well, because I'm always doing something, but I do need to sit back and hear the cue and see how it fits. Obviously, while I'm doing that, other things are going on. There's dialogue to deal with. There's sound effects. There's a group of people sitting behind me, Denis and Joe and everybody else, saying, hey, can we raise that? Oh, can you lower that? Can we change that loop line while I'm doing this? So you need to be listening to everyone behind you, listening to this, and trying to detach yourself in some way of how it plays as an audience member.
Let me point out for a second for Ron why this is really, really cool in Ron's workflow. So when I mix a piece of music, when you music guys mix a piece of music, you have one piece of music that you're mixing, and you can commit your panning position to what you want it to be. Maybe you'll automate it a little bit, but it's not thing. Ron is working in a reel at a time. So he's got 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 pieces of music in there. So when he commits to a box, he might not want that same box for the next piece of music. So the way he's building it, which is so clever, is he can automate simply by the same way we automate on off with bypasses and stuff like that. He can automate which box it is on each piece of music, which makes that kind of flexibility when you're in a film totally amazing.
If you see this automation go, you'll notice
they all flashing, I'm sure. Yeah.
They all switch to different cues, and because you don't want the same thing on every cue. There's, there are general things like, okay, orchestra, maybe stay in the bed,
choir
or
maybe up there.
Choir up there, yeah. Or
the piano part might be different. There might be a new solo instrument. Like on one cue, the solo might be the singer Loire, and another cue, the solo might be a guitar solo. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're always shifting. They're moving of what spatially where it should go, and also who's more attached to the screen, who's more up front, and of course you adjust from there.